I'm Edwina Cowell. I am the mother founder, is my new handle. I'm the mother founder of Spiritual Playdate, which is an online program. It's social, emotional, and spiritual life skills for kids and their grown-ups. And this meeting's a little bit different today because we're sort of talking about the social emotional world and the spiritual world, and a little bit about religion and things that cross over. So we have probably a variety of different folks here for different reasons today. So if anybody wants to network, you do want to introduce yourselves and um, tell us what you do and where you're from. I'm going to give us all just a minute to do that. You can also put it in the chat if you want to network and put your email out there. That's certainly great too. What we find at these meetings is we have teachers, we have parents, we have grandparents, we have faith educators. We have a lot of school administrators now that are finding out that our kids are definitely in trouble. And so we're all trying to solve a similar problem. And social emotional learning is one of those things. And I will talk a little bit about that, a little bit about spirituality. Is there anybody here that would like to just pop in for 1 second, say where you're from, who you are, and what you do? I'll give you another opportunity, but if you want to do that now, please do so. Anyone want to say hi?
Hi, my name is Nina Kalyaniwala. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. More people know Dallas than Fort Worth. And I just retired last year as a middle school teacher, and I teach religious ed at my church.
Wonderful. Wonderful to have you here. Thank you, Nina. Thanks for joining us.
Mhm.
Melinda, I think you were next. Oh, I'm sorry. Gulner.
Hi, I'm Gulnar Surveyor. I live in the greater Houston area. I lived in Ohio for many years, but I moved to Texas about 14 years ago, I think now. And I have two children. My son is getting ready to turn 24. My daughter is 20. And I'm always interested in any learning to, I already do have a good relationship with them, but to make it even better, that is what I'm always looking for.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. We appreciate you being here. Becca, you want to say hi?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I actually know the few Zoroastrians that are in this group.
Oh, good.
Yeah. But I am a mother. I'm a parent, a grandparent. I'm a religion, faith educator. And as a volunteer in my community, I work often with a lot of youth groups. So I found today's topic really interesting and see how I could grow myself in better relationships with the young people that I engage myself with. So thank you for bringing this topic for us today.
Well, you are very welcome. It's a topic that is on my heart a lot. Our program has kind of evolved to this to meet all of the unusual things that are happening in our world. I'll give you just a little context about the program, and then I really do want to go right into this topic a little bit today because it's a really interesting topic. So, Spiritual Playdate was founded by three moms in 2007 on a living room floor. We had three 7-year-old boys. We were playing Wednesdays after school. The boys were wrestling. We were having tea. We were all concerned that we weren't really part of their any spiritual formation for whatever reason. One of them was in a very religious Sunday school, and she was a little nervous about what was being taught there. Actually, I think he was even in a religious school, and she was a little bit nervous about what was happening there. Another one of the moms was one of we call them nuns and duns. They had walked away from everything, and the son had wanted to go, I think, to synagogue or something with the neighbors. And so that was um, hold on, am I recording? No, I am recording. Okay, good. I'm just making sure. Sorry. So there was another interesting thing because she was concerned about letting him go off with somebody else to learn about what? God, hell, what? So, and the third person was me, and I was in a place that I really liked. It was very spiritual, metaphysical place, and I thought I liked what I knew about what he was getting, but it was once a week. We had very little conversation. Boys don't tend to share very much, and they grow very fast. So we took that time. We decided to sit down, and talk with the boys, and create some games and books and just turn that time into a quality sort of a home school, I guess you'd call it. I mean, it was very loose and we just created it as we went. Fast forward 2 years into it, we had done it for 2 straight years. The kids were making up their own meditations. We had started out with very spiritual topics like heaven and hell and spiritual teachers and what is God. And then we moved into more what we consider spiritual topics: love, forgiveness, gratitude, the things that the pearls that a lot of us get from many are from our faith teachings, religious teachings, not all. Um, and in 2015, we launched nationally at the Parliament of World Religions in Salt Lake City. In 2018, we created the first ever Interfaith Family Festival for the Parliament in Toronto. And 2023, we also hosted another festival at the Parliament in Chicago. We have grown. We are now in 10 countries. We always thought this would be for parents at home with their kids. It never occurred to us that as people were, there was this exodus from religion and nothing filling the gap, that Sunday schools would be interested, that youth groups would be interested, that we've got yoga teachers and people that are also interested, because so many people see the gap that our kids are becoming spiritually bankrupt. Now, when we layer on what is happening in our society with the internet, with AI, you have kids, very young kids, that are not even developmentally ready to be seeing and hearing very toxic, unhealthy messages without anything much countering them. And again, this isn't completely universal, but it is happening in a pretty widespread basis right now. And so kids that we maybe were talking to at 9, 10, 11 years ago, we need to be talking to at 5 or 6 or 7 now. We need to be preparing them for middle school. Who said they were a middle school tier? Just retired. Nina, was that you? I think that was Nina. Middle school is the cruelest season now. Middle school is where they have their first traumas. Maybe they've had trauma before that, but I could almost guarantee you there's going to be, we had trauma in middle school.
Yeah,
So,
we see it a lot in middle school,
yeah,
and I
it's
think it's coming up in younger and younger years now,
exactly,
unfortunately.
exactly. So, I propose to you that this spiritual gap that we're having and this flee from religion, which I'm not always a fan of religion. We can see what religion's done to our world. But this spiritual gap that we have is dangerous. And I think there are ways for us to fill that gap. And some of it is with families at home. But I would say on a broader level, I want to educate everybody about what social emotional learning is, and um, why there is a gap in spirituality and social emotional learning. So, social emotional learning comes from the psychology that we as human beings, when we start to understand our emotions, we can start to improve our behavior, become less reactive, learn social skills, learn about our own feelings. Now, I can see this age group here. I am a boomer. I guess I'm a Jen Jones actually right now. But all of us are old enough to know that I don't think people were sitting down, like my parents were not talking to me about anxiety and trauma and, joy. And like those things came very late in my life. When I was actually pursuing spirituality is when I started to learn about a lot of those things. So, because social emotional learning does have such great benefits for kids, it's an enormously important piece here in the West And I don't know, I don't have that much data on the rest of the world. And the rest of the world is starting to catch up. But certainly here in the West, in public schools, we are trying to muscle it into the public schools. The teachers don't have the capacity for it. They're already overwhelmed. Kids are cynical and not as easy to sort of bring into all these conversations. And more than anything, it's been scrubbed of spiritual topics. You won't find forgiveness in a public school. I mean, you might have a teacher that talks about it, but you won't look at that as what I call a spiritual skill. These are our coping. These are our ways that we learn to cope and have hopefulness in life. And when you take a young child and you marinate them in all these fearful messages, which we are all marinating in as well right now. Even if you turn off the news, it's pretty hard to get away from all the things that are happening around us, to our families, to our neighbors. We begin to worry. We begin to show signs of depression, anxiety. And again, here in the West, what do we do with that? We run to a doctor. It's a diagnosis. Your kid's sick. Now they're on medication and never you're learning to cope. So I propose that there is this gap in social emotional learning, which is a spiritual gap. It's not a religious gap, it's a spiritual gap. And it is the mind, body, spirit connection. They are working with the mind, body, trying to implement those things. And oftentimes they don't happen as much as they should or where they should. If they're happening at school, that's great. You've got a great teacher that's focusing on that and bringing these kids into that and letting them identify their feelings every day and teaching them how to express themselves. That's fantastic. I can tell you it's not happening at the pace that we need it to happen. So I'm on a little bit of a mission right now. In addition to the content that we have in our program, which I can update many of you on this and why it's something that's important, I have two missions. We just created a blog, which I will share with everybody. It's about the piece that's missing in social emotional learning. It is the spiritual piece. It is this idea of connectedness, of the golden rule, of these things that we learn through words, often traditionally was our religious upbringing, but it is those pearls of wisdom, many of them being the things that do cross over many faith teachings. So I am on a little bit of a mission to work with social emotional teachers and leaders, and they are interested in this because many of them have their own faiths and they realize that that's the piece that's sort of floundering. So many reasons that kids don't show up at a faith formation class, at a Sunday school, at a religious ed class. It's not just because the parents don't want the kids indoctrinated, which I will say many of them don't, or they're nervous about what's being taught, but they're exhausted, they're zoomed out, the schools are shrinking, and there's nothing vibrant going on. Now I want to flip a little bit to the religious schools, which I think some of you probably are connected to, and let's talk about what's happened there. The religious schools are often very old school. They're trying to teach ancient wisdom, but they're not using modern methods. They're not integrating today's kinds of problems. They are often underfunded. They are often taught by volunteers. They are often stuck in the worst room in the basement, and the parents go get fed in a sanctuary. So my other plea is to have faith leaders and spiritual leaders and teachers to look at their programs. How are they serving the kids in their community and the kids and the families in their community? And how can we do better? And there is no question in my mind that we can do much better. We need to be able to build in some social emotional learning into our spiritual classes for kids, whether that be in a yoga school, a yoga studio, a faith ed class, if you want parents to show up with their kids, then we need to teach the kids what the parents want us to teach the kids. So that I can tell you, one of my most important sessions and lessons that we have developed over the years. And I feel like there's many. Fear and anxiety. Fear and anxiety. It is, I won't go into the details of what it is, but I can tell you fear and anxiety is at the core of some of the most destructive behavior. We see it everywhere. We feel it ourselves. We know when we're acting in fear, we're making our worst decisions. We have nothing countering this fear, and the kids are becoming fear-based and hopeless. That's what depression and anxiety is. You're feeling hopeless. When you're feeling hopeful, you're not necessarily anxious and you're probably coming out of depression. So all of these things are critical pieces that it feels like we're missing. We just seem to be like, we're doing all these. Okay, they're going to sports, they're going to piano lessons, they're going to Tai Chi or karate or what all these things are. But at the same time, we're not building hope. We are not creating young people that feel confident, that they're here for a reason, that they're smart, that life is hard. We didn't have to be told life is hard because we were sheltered from we should have been told life is hard. It would have prevented a lot of problems. I do believe that. So I'm going to take a breath here and see if I've made sense with you all in terms of kind of what I'm talking about today in terms of this particular topic. And just get any feedback that you might have or any questions. Anybody have any thoughts?
Yeah, if I can ask something.
Yeah.
So like I said, my kids are kind of adults now, but when my daughter was younger, and I at least I don't think that the home environment had much negativity in it, but yet she went through, and like you said, during middle school, she went through a phase of acute anxiety when she was in middle school, and she didn't actually share that feeling with us for a very long time. Um, and so I guess looking back, I'm really not sure what could I have done differently so that she didn't have to go through that period of she the way she later on when she came and she told me about it, she said that it would literally paralyze her anxiety. And I do wonder if some of that is biological, because the home environment at least was, I don't think there was anything very negative. We are just a normal family, we are middle class, and she's got a two-parent stable household. And we are not rich, but we were comfortable where she got all her needs met and many of her wants met also. So it was
So
very
you didn't do anything wrong because we didn't know what we didn't know. Even with my kids, I started when they were 7, and this thing took years to develop. So I missed some of those windows, even with my own boys, which are 23 and 27 now. So what you could have done is not really something that was accessible, in vogue, understood very well. So I don't want you to beat yourself up, but I want us to be aware that there is something we can do now, because the trauma is going to come not necessarily from your family. It comes from middle school. It comes from some friend being abducted or God knows what. It comes from them getting into a fight or some terrible cyberbullying. I remember how terrified my kids were with the cyberbullying because suddenly they're
excuse me.
exposed and they have no idea how to handle this. So the idea, and I say this quite a bit, I just even brought it up, the idea of starting, I wouldn't necessarily start all of our sessions with fear and anxiety right out of the box, but going into forgiveness, love, gratitude, starting those, but then talking about what is fear and anxiety. See, we don't understand that anxiety is a normal, you're not sick if you're anxious, okay? It's a normal physiologically reaction to fear and worry. And fear and worry can come from a real threat, like being chased by a tiger, where our reptilian brain goes, yikes, and everything shuts down except for all your adrenaline, or an imagined threat where you're thinking I'm being chased by a tiger, where you're reading a text and suddenly your mind turns into, I am, I'm in, I'm in danger. And these kids are, I'm in danger, I'm in danger, I'm in danger. Pretty soon, what happens? Their stomach hurts. They can't sleep. What happens to us? The same thing. We can't sleep. We can't turn off our brains. We don't understand that there are a lot of tools besides, a pill that might certainly help in the moment and get you back. But, breathing, meditation, just simple things, creating things with your hands and becoming present, that gets you out of your brain. And once you understand that this is a common human experience, kids need to understand this. They need to know what it is before the trauma comes. And then they're like, oh, I'm feeling anxious. I'm just feeling anxious. I'm worried about Joey because I think Joey's feeling anxious.
Edwina,
Those,
may I add something here a little bit?
please.
I heard what Gulnar was saying, and I kind of identified to a certain extent. I'm observing that majority of the attendees here are either Zoroastrians or connected to the faith in some way. And this is something that I experienced in my family, and that's why I just want to share it if it helps anyone. My daughter had a great middle school time. We moved, unfortunately, cities and therefore schools in her seventh grade in the middle, which was not the best thing to do, but we didn't have a choice. And she was a little lonely without friends. But then when she made friends, she had some really strong friendships all through high school. And that was a saving grace for her because they all had great fun together, but they motivated each other when they had a test to go back and study. This was several years ago. But then afterwards, my daughter, she's now a PhD practicing psychologist, and she has shared with me that in our community, unfortunately, we hold our kids to a very high standard, thereby creating some anxiety. Not that we're doing anything wrong, but we just feel like, okay, you can do better. You can do this. I expect this from you. And I think that pressure builds up. So when there is any little anything that comes up as, oh, I didn't succeed at this, that trauma is felt more deeply because they feel that parents won't accept us as well or may not love us as much because we did not do this well. And it's just that the expectations are so high. And that's what we experience. We're in a much better place. She's a lot older. As I said, she's a practicing psychologist now, and she's 37 years old. So, but she shared with me much later that she did feel this because of the pressure she felt from us. So if that helps anyone, I don't know.
This impacts everyone. I would be surprised to hear if none of you ever have felt anxious about things. The problem is when you're young and you have no frame of reference about life and what's happening to you, it's so magnified. Kids in school, they have that moment when something happens to them in school. It's enormous. It's not like, you're like, oh, whatever, that guy at work's, a problem or something. They don't have that. They aren't able to understand that all these things are going to happen in their lives. And so I will say that just because they don't exhibit extreme anxiety, I still think that I call it a life skill is understanding it, is understanding that it's human, understanding when you're going through periods of it. I mean, God forbid you have a diagnosis of some kind. Immediately, of course, you're going to start feeling anxious. You have to be aware of that and think about what can I do to keep calm? And now there's so much information about how we can calm down our nervous systems. So we don't want our kids to get stuck in those nervous, anxious places and ruminate about things and obsess about things. And pretty soon now, they have mental health days. They don't have to go to school. If your kid understands what they're going through, they're more likely to, and we have sessions on resilience, connectedness, things that you can do when you are feeling this way. So the feeling, the social, but the emotional understanding of all of the things that we feel, and we can feel a lot of things at once. We can be happy and angry all at the same time. We have so many feelings, But the more that they understand all of these things and the earlier that we get to them, the better chance they have of being able to bounce from the difficulties because life is hard. And that is another thing that we need to let them know. I mean, I don't know anybody. It does, you can be positive, you can bounce, you can have all these things that we do have to cope, but let's not pretend it's all perfect. We shelter them and try to protect them. Sorry, one second here, letting someone in. We can shelter them and try to protect them from, hi there, from uh, bad things happening to them. No parent wants to see bad things happening to their kid or their grandkid or see them struggling. But it's quite important that we start this within our communities. If it can't happen at your house of worship, then it can happen at home. We can have groups, we have homeschool groups that are starting this with their own neighbors and communities, which is essentially the way it started. Like I said, we have Sunday schools that are using it. Some use it as curriculum, some filled it, blend it into their regular curriculum if they have some specific curriculum. But, if you are using it in a faith organization, it's important to find out what is it that the parents really want you to be helping their kids with. Not just what are you trying to deliver in terms of ideology and theology, a belief in your beliefs about God, a beliefs in certain rituals that you have. But when you get into those things, talking about we have rituals because it brings us together, makes us feel better. Teach them that. Don't just teach them the ritual, teach them the why, teach them the connectedness. Do a session on connectedness so they understand that the community will be supportive of them if you have that kind of community. So, yes, Becca.
Jumping on what you just said, it doesn't necessarily have to be our old rituals to bring people together. I found that our younger generation comes up with their own rituals that are connected with the old, are meaningful, but they're different. So, because sometimes they're different, we feel like, oh, they're not doing the right things. But we have to learn that we have to let all our kids, explore life at their own terms, do what makes sense to them, as long as they're not hurting anyone. And if we join them in their efforts, then they become successful at not only making themselves happy, but keeping people together.
Bravo. Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better. We also have this way of talking to kids, not questioning and being curious with them and trying to invite them into the conversation. So, because they're smart, they get all this. But, if they're sitting there and you're just telling them more and more about, some old scripture and stuff, and they're not engaged in it, it's not relevant, they're going to be tuned out, they're going to be turned off. They learn in the best ways. Sometimes they learn at school on a whiteboard with a video, with music, with fun things, with dancing. We can't expect these kids to come into a faith ed class, any class anymore, and have some dry, boring. I mean, we don't want to do it either. So I think if there is a way that you can talk about the old rituals and say, okay, what if we were to update this and make a new ritual? Rituals are wonderful and we are losing a lot of them, but we're also, like you said, creating new ones. We have interfaith families that are creating their new rituals, and having all of this discussion, and because religion has become more complicated, more dangerous, and more controversial right now because of our political atmosphere, it is probably being pushed back even harder. So if you can go down that spiritual road with the kids and look at these other things that can be folded into your faith traditions, I can tell you right now, the things that we call spiritual life skills, I'm sure they're in Zoroastrian traditions. We know we have lots of different advisors on different things that look at our life skills. And many of them are, they are born out of these old spiritual teachings. So, and there might be things in your faith that can be damaging. And that's another thing we have to look at because I'm going to tell you one quick story because I think it's important. So my son was my younger son, we adopted him from Ethiopia when he was 6. And they used to read the Bible every night. And he went through hell and back. His mother died, his grandmother died before he was 5 years old. He was bounced around, he was beaten, he was given up to an orphanage, he was hungry, thirsty, all the things, all the things. So he was damaged goods when he came. And one of the families that he had lived with used to tell him he had Satan in him and beat him. And they were beating Satan out of him. Okay. And you've heard of that, beat the devil out of someone, right? You've probably heard that. So when he came to us, here's this sweet 6.5-year-old boy, and he had reactive attachment disorder, lots of other things. Well, I could go into, long lists. And one day he was, pushing me back and crying and screaming and throwing this fit. And I was down on my knees in front of him trying to calm him down. And he looked at me and he said, "You don't want me. I have Satan in me." Okay. Okay. I was like, "What?" What? This boy not only didn't think he was worth anything, worth being loved, he thought he had evil in him. And so I, at the time, was in a metaphysical spiritual center that was very much above and beyond. And I didn't really believe in hell or Satan. And it occurred to me like, oh, that's why this young I need to shift his thinking. I said, "Dude, there's no Satan in you. There's no Satan. And if there was, he wouldn't be in a 6-year-old boy." But I knew that was not going to be an easy thing to shift because now you're talking about I feel, and not just I feel, but I am like worthless. I am bad. And been told over and over again, no one wants you. You can see all the messages coming. No one wants you. You're bad. You're evil. Kids believe that. So for a long time, I was always pushing him into believing that there was only love, there was only God at the time, and those kinds of things. So we ended up in a very interesting, very positive church community, Christian church community. And again, volunteers in the Sunday school. And one day, now he's 13 now, 12, something like that. He comes home and he says, we got in the car after church. And he's like, "Mom," he said, "the teacher told me that Jesus is coming back and he's going to separate all the good people from the bad people. And the good people are going to heaven and the bad people are going to hell." And I said, "Wow." I said, "Really?" And I knew what he was thinking, even with everything that we had worked on, I knew what he was thinking. And I said, I said, "Well," I said, I think I said, I said, "Wow." I said, "Well, am I a good person or a bad person?" And he goes, "Oh, I think you're a good person." I said, "I don't know." I said, "I've done a lot of bad things in my life." I said, "What about you? Are you a good person or a bad person?" And he goes, "Well, I try to be a good person." And I said, "Nate, there are no good people or bad people. We're just all people trying to figure it out. We all do good things and bad things. Some of them are horrible. Some of them are lovely." I said, "And this is not something that has any proof that it's real." I said, "If this doesn't serve you to make you feel good about who you are and do better," I said, "you don't need to believe this. This is, So we went down that road, but he didn't want to go back. And then we talked about going back because he had learned a lot of wonderful things. And I think we went back once or twice, but he then went down a road of like atheism and he's on the journey. He's on the journey. But talk about damaging. Talk about a damaging. Now, this boy was already so vulnerable And then to have those kinds of things fed into his psyche, we're human beings. We're just human beings. So, yes, religion can be horribly damaging. And when you look around at a lot of the people that are doing horrible things, some of them have been very damaged by religion. So we do have to be cautious about allowing people to explore their own faith and figure out what makes sense for them and not just shut down somebody that says, well, I don't believe that, like tell them that they have to believe something that you believe. So it's very complicated. It's not simple, but it can be damaging. So while we try to find all the goodness that is in what that has come from whatever our faith, all those pearls, and pass those on, we need to allow people to be on those journeys and try to work around those parameters and look at what is the situation, meet them where they are. What is the situation is this child's in? I was terrified of hell. I didn't sleep till I was like 15, probably. I was raised Catholic, very conservative Catholic. I spent my whole childhood trying to stay out of hell. And you went to hell if you ate a hamburger. So you probably all know this, and I'm going on and on again. I can be a member of On and On Anonymous sometimes, so I apologize for that. But when it comes to our faith, we have to be objective and we have to understand if we have a mission to pass on good things, we have to give the kids um, things that will serve them well and be able to talk to them about things too. Okay, thoughts. I'm sorry, I did take a lot of our time just now. Melinda or Nina, anybody else? Jimmy, you have any thoughts?
As far as heaven and hell, which is associated with every religion, I tell my grandkids, I've got 6 grandkids, that basically there is no heaven or hell, that heaven or hell is experienced at every moment, depending on what your actions are. It's a consequence you feel or you face. Because it really confuses kids when you talk about concepts which you and I cannot prove. Nobody knows anything, but they just came up with this heaven or hell if you do good, and each religion has different interpretation. But basically, I tell them, your heaven and hell is here on earth.
Mm-hmm.
You do good, you will feel good. That's your heaven. If you do bad, you will feel bad. And I make it simple. I don't try to make it, although my religion talks about heaven or hell, I don't know in what respect. I don't think even that's very clear. But each teacher has different interpretation of that. But I just say there is none
That's
because there is no
excellent.
proof. I've not seen it. I've no evidence. So I just keep it simple.
And what
Just
about
let them be
creating it
good.
here? What
Sorry?
about creating it for yourself here? That's the
Yeah,
thing. We are
exactly. Do
constantly
good and
creating.
you'll feel
Yes.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the
So
best I can come up with.
we have in our life, we call them life skill topics. So heaven and hell is a life skill topic. And in order for us to do heaven and hell, we had to deal with the concept of a soul because heaven and hell are often perceived as a reward after this life. Not always. So we had to do body, mind, and soul. Then we did heaven and hell. And this is very contextual. It's critical. It's a lot of questions. It's allowed to get kids, talking about what they believe or thinking about it. We want our kids to be truth students and critical thinkers. So we do also use I think it's actually called heaven and hell, joy and pain, because we talk about the fact that people think this is something that comes later, a reward, a punishment, almost a place. And then there are people that believe that it's joy, your joy, states of joy and pain here on earth. It's joy and pain. So and that serves us more than, uh-oh, where am I going and why? And no one knows. So, but it is complicated and we don't want to scare the kids. That's another thing because it can,
No,
some of these can be a little scary.
Um,
sorry.
no, go ahead. Yeah, I'll
Go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Jimmy.
You can push them towards critical thinking, by asking, okay, who is the heaven and hell for? Is it only for human beings? Is it for animals? Is it for insects? Because I had a small argument with a lady who was my wife's client, and she says, oh, there is. I said, what about ants? What about scorpions? Do they? And I said, it's ridiculous to think that only human beings can go to heaven or hell, because if it applies to one living thing, it should apply to all living things. And it's man's vanity that
Yes.
causes all these things, because we think we are going to live forever and there is something. We want to believe that there is something after death. I don't
Yeah.
believe that. I don't think there's anything after death. You
Yeah.
have to make the best of your life while you're on earth. That's it. That's my belief. You know.
That's lovely.
So,
And again, there are people that would say, well, it serves me well to think that there's something wonderful. I'm not afraid, or I do better because I think I'm going to make it there. It's complicated for sure, but there's no way to disprove it. There's no way to prove it. And we probably will not know in this lifetime. So, but we can't, when we definitively tell kids they're going to hell because they're eating a burger or any of these other things, it's that is when it becomes problematic. That's when, and certainly now with the societal judgment of everything, gender and all these different things that are happening, there are, and people telling other people that they're going to hell. And whose business are you in? It's absolutely not your business whether I'm going somewhere. So again, these are not simple. We strip everything down because we want everybody to be able to talk to their kids, their grandkids, their students about topics that are difficult, but to open the door to the conversation so they can think, so they become truth seekers. And so they are not afraid to come and tell you, Mom, I'm feeling worried. I'm feeling kind of sick to my stomach. I'm really worried about this or this pressure. These are all different, and now we have trauma. Everybody's traumatized about everything. But trauma comes in a couple different forms. There's big T trauma, there's little t trauma, there's barely trauma, and everything is trauma now. You stub your toe and I can't go to work because I'm so triggered or whatever, all these things are. But um my mission now is to open this conversation to social emotional teachers, to faith educators, to parents and teachers. Don't wait, parents and grandparents. You do not have to. Those kids, how fast do our kids grow? How fast?
very fast.
Very fast.
Mhm.
Our window is 6 to 11. Our prime window is 6 to 11. Most parents are thinking they're going to have a big, complicated, beautiful, difficult conversation at 12. Those kids are out the door. They don't care what you're thinking at 12. Developmentally, they are supposed to be separating from you. So they're not hanging on your words at 12. And they are probably already have quite a bit of things baked into them in terms of what they believe if you haven't had some of these conversations early. So, and also don't be afraid to have the conversations with the older kids. Some of you that I think I've seen before, heard before, might have told me, back to fear and anxiety for a minute. We use a book called After the Fall, and it was written by a gentleman. He's a children's author and he writes beautiful children's books. But he wrote this book for his wife who had severe panic attacks, terrible anxiety. And it's the story of Humpty Dumpty after he's fallen from the wall. And so you see this beautiful book, and here's this poor Humpty is broken. He's sad. He's scared. He doesn't know what to do. He wants to go back to the wall, but he's afraid. And so it follows his journey of trying to, how does he face these fears and get to the top of the wall? Because that's all he wants to do. He misses sitting up there. He wants to be up there and watch the birds. And so he finally gets to the wall and finally makes his way back up to the top. What do you think happens? And I know what you're all going to say already, because every grown-up says this to me. What do you think happens? Are you thinking he falls again? Most people
Yes.
always say almost always adults tell me he falls again. He hatches. He was never meant to be an egg. He was meant to be a bird. And when he was down on the ground and he soars away with the birds once he hatches, all his fears have been holding him back from hatching and soaring away with the birds. It is the most beautiful metaphor for fear holding us back and us being able to turn into who we are meant to be, and why this story of fear holding us back is so important, because fear is pervasive. It keeps coming back, and then it becomes anxiety, and then pretty soon you're physically unable to do things. So we have an activity around that where the kids make wings and they write their fears on one side and they write their their dreams on the other side, and they play and they just try to remember they're meant to soar, and facing those fears will help them soar. So that's why I say these topics are so special and really geared to be folded into faith kinds of spiritual classes. These are the things that are going to serve our kids the most right now. Not just telling them, this, you do this, you do that, you're going to go here, you're going to go there. There's so much more to all of this. And I think that we're evolving to that place, I hope.
Edwina, could you give us the author of that book?
Yeah, I'm going to show you. It's Dan Santant, and it's in our library. If you will all go in to Spiritual Playdate, I'm going to first of all, let me put the website in. Go to spiritualplaydate.com. You can sign up for free. Yeah, I'm going to put the website in. It's spiritualplaydate.com. And if you go in and you can sign up for free, we never ask you for a credit card or anything. If you want to access all of the sessions and stuff, it's only $2 a month. And it's billed monthly. So if you want to use it and then discontinue it, it's the cost of an app. Hold on. I'll show you a little bit about, if we have we have 9 minutes left. Does anyone have, is it okay if I keep going a few more minutes?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, so the website is spiritualplaydate.com. I'm putting in my email, which I don't think you have at this point. Becca, you have it. I'm Edwina at spiritualplaydate.com. We're starting to get, and this is a little surprising too, we're starting to get innovative schools signing up as our partners too, which is really exciting to see private schools, innovative schools, faith ed schools, because there's an appetite for this and it's outside of what's being done anywhere, and people don't know where to find these resources. So is it okay if I show you the website a little bit?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I have to log in, believe it or not. Okay. All right. Can you all see this?
Yes.
You know what? I'm going to show you our video, our little 3-minute video, because it really gives you a good glimpse of, because it's a new kind of program. I mean, this doesn't exist anywhere as far as we know. So hold on, I don't think I can share it from here with the sound. Let me stop sharing for 1 second and get it. There's a 3-minute explainer video. Again, I'm thinking, Becky, you probably saw this somewhere along the way. Becky and I have been working together for years on all kinds of good things. Now, take a look at our world. Okay, can you see this?
Yes.
You see the video? Can you hear it? I'm going to hit the
We all see.
Can you hear it? No?
We can't hear it yet.
Take a look at our world.
Yeah.
We all see what's
Now we can.
Oh, you can't
happening.
hear it?
Yes.
It's impossible to miss. We are losing our human connectedness. We see social unrest and political upheaval, environmental disasters, and a hurting planet, and heartbreaking global conflict and destruction. These growing threats can cause a roller coaster of human emotions. It feels like we've all been through too much, leaving us restless, angry, sad. Now look at our kids. We see them becoming anxious and confused. They need our help now while they're young. But how can we encourage them to develop resilience and hope? Teach them to understand and manage their feelings and emotions. Give them the tools to become critical thinkers and compassionate global citizens, and equip them with the social, emotional, and spiritual life skills that will serve their mental well-being now and for the rest of their lives. Spiritual Playdate was created for parents, teachers, faith educators, and therapists to use with kids aged 5 to 11. Just a few of our important life skills topics include fear and anxiety, forgiveness, understanding bullying, living and dying, and the all-important golden rule. All of our fun and interactive resources are just a click away. Host groups large or small in your home, school, or spiritual center. And your kids will grow to be kinder, stronger, and more confident. Why have a spiritual play date? Because we believe that it's easier to build strong children than repair broken adults. Join us today at spiritualplaydate.com.
Okay, so that just gives you an idea. That's a good thing. If you ever want to show it to somebody, like, if you're a grandparent, you want to show it to your kids, you can find that on our YouTube page. It's also on the front of our homepage, but it gives you just a sense of what we've got. So in the, God, I've got way too many things open, don't I? Okay, so here's our website, and our website has pretty much anything you need in terms of running a session with kids. So if you want to do, we call them life skills, okay? And we've got two kinds. These all have big activities, like Spiritual Protest has one where the kids dip their feet in paint and talk about walking in peace and nonviolence. It's a big activity. Soul Talks are 3 sessions. These are big, deep conversations. This is, what is bullying, connectedness? When you get in here, like forgiveness, for example, of course, it's great. There's 3 sessions. Everyone has a meditation. They have all kinds of activities. They have books. They have a Spotify playlist. Play music with the kids, not kiddie music, but our music with great messages. What is forgiveness is the first session, forgiving others, forgiving yourself. We always try to bring everything back to the kid. Everything's done in series of questions. So, and then if you go into our fun stuff, we have libraries, we have the music, we have games, we have a shop, we have a blog over here, all kinds of things. This is one of the articles that we just wrote, which I'm going to be sharing with all of you after. I'll send you all some things after we get off. And here's a bunch of our blog. We're doing all kinds of things like Substack and Now and everything else that everyone's doing. So, and just so you know a little bit, affiliates are organizations. So if you have a school, a church, a faith center, a yoga studio that wants to be one of our peace partners and wants access to the curriculum, they're affiliates of ours, and we work with them and we cross promote them. So, we have churches and synagogues. We have a taekwondo studio in Uganda who has this incredible Master Badru. He teaches refugee kids taekwondo and uses our meditations and our lessons with them. So there's an appetite for this in different places because people see this gap in what's happening with all of our kids. So that's an affiliate thing. So in terms of the books, go into here. Even if you're a free member, I think you have to sign up at least with an email to get into our website. I'm pretty sure you can't just go in. But if you go into here, fear and anxiety, and after the fall, right here, Dan Santant. And we get probably get 10 cents if it goes to Amazon. If you buy it through Amazon, you can get it at the library. But if you buy it through Amazon, I think we move up in the algorithm and get 10 cents. So of course I would appreciate that. I'm going to put this in the chat as well. But in terms of our library, we have so many topics. Now, while these look like kids' books, I'm telling you, they're profound. There isn't a book in here that you won't walk away and go, wow, that's the woman that does the curating for this. She's a master children's librarian, SEL specialist. Nothing gets in here unless it's vetted, beautiful illustrations, etc. I'm going to show you our games too, because, for example, sacred spaces. Now, I don't know if let's say Zoroastrian specifically, do you have, how do you talk about sacred spaces? Is there sanctuaries? Are there places on the planet? Is it all sacred? Where do you go with a conversation about sacred spaces? Becca, maybe you can fill me in.
What I teach my kids is not a sacred space is not just the temple where you go and pray, but a sacred space is wherever you are with people who love and respect you and who you love and respect. We can create a sacred space right where you are, in the room in which you are. That's what our religion is all about, that the whole world can be a sacred space if we really
Right.
make it that way.
So the 3 sessions that we have in sacred spaces are man-made, and we had some Sharing Sacred Spaces, which is a big international organization, help us sort of use the correct verbiage for some of this. So they call built spaces, they used to call it man-made. I think it's now human-made spaces. It's going to be your temples and your all kinds of things. So this is a matching game. The kids love it. And it's religious literacy. So you talk about temples and things like that, right? So then the second one is natural spaces. It's not cooperating. And again, these are games that you can play with the kids, or they can even play on their own, but it gives you some religious literacy. Hello. Natural spaces. Let's just look at this. And then the question is, are these spaces sacred? Well, everybody's going to come to the conclusion, of course they are. These are special. They're all part of our environment and our world. But then my favorite, critical thinking, let's get back to it, is this space sacred, right? Is that a sacred space? Piano keyboard? The little dock. We had a guy at Parliament, a little kid that said, well, this is a sacred space for me because I'm a fisherman. So they are starting to think about places how about that? How about a book with nothing written on it? Is that a sacred space? I'm not trying to match everything. I like this one. This one is very controversial with the kids. Some kids are like, no, that's not sacred. Well, you can make an argument. It's pretty sacred to that loon family, isn't it? Anyway, so you get the idea. This is, how about your bed? My bed is very sacred. So you get the idea. These are all here to thought-provoking, compelling things, getting kids to think about things more broadly, getting us to think about more things more broadly. Not that just some sanctuary that you walk into is sacred. It's all holy ground. It's all holy ground. We don't treat it like holy ground. But if we get to that point, we're going to find our relationship with the planet better. Our homes are going to feel better around us. The energy is going to be better. And we're constantly developing new topics. Oops, sorry. I'm going to show you one more thing, and then I'm going to, we can have, if there's any more questions, we can wrap. Come on. I have so many windows open, you guys. It's not good. Okay, let me share it one more time. Okay, so I just wanted to show you life skills one more time. So these are activities. They actually are changing this to activities that pop. These are big activities that you'll see when you go in there, that they're just fun for people that want to do big outreach activities, community activities, things with a big family. There are all kinds of different things you can do in these. Body, mind, and soul, bullying, connectedness, faith, fair and unfair. Everybody wanted it after George Floyd. Everyone asked us to do justice. Well, justice is a very complicated thing, and it's not a standalone thing. Justice is an outcome that we look for after there's been an injustice. So you have to lay the groundwork, and in order to do that, first we had to do fair and unfair. Every kid can tell you what's fair and unfair. But once you start having that conversation, then you start talking about justice. What do you do when something is unfair, when people are being treated unfairly? That's when justice comes in. Fear and anxiety, as I've told you, it's one of my favorite. Forgiveness, God, golden rule, gratitude, heaven and hell, holy books and sacred texts. This is really interesting. So again, we always try to bring the kids to something relevant to them personally. So we talk about ancient scripture, holy books, sacred texts, things that resonate, truth, writings, quotes. And then by the third lesson, we talk about texting. And we invite them to send a holy text and look at their texts as sacred, not as just something that doesn't mean anything to the person on the other end. Now, to me, that is a spiritual life skill. That's a lesson for our kids to understand things in a different way. They have been given the permission to say anything to anyone. And the adults seem to think so too. Living and dying, love, peace, resilience, sacred spaces, spiritual teachers, staying safe. It goes on and on. We're doing respect right now, and we have a respect challenge that we'll invite you to if you sign up for either our newsletter or for the... Okay, any other thoughts or questions?
Thank you so much for this session.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah.
You're very welcome. I hope that you have a chance to look at this. We do sessions all the time, and they're not just specific sessions, but necessarily we can do a session just for Zoroastrians to talk about the specific principles and things that you guys might want developed specifically for your particular teachings. Or, we just did one for the Methodists. There's a large Methodist community. The Quakers have a big appetite for this. Their thing is peace, all about peace. We call this a peace education program. It's more of a holistic peace education program. So don't be intimidated. Do not be intimidated. Oh, you're muted, Gulnar.
Sorry. I was wondering, I'll go through your website when the session ends, but I was curious if you have any resources on your website specifically to interact with older kids.
Yeah, well, we have a lot, and a lot of those outreach are for kids of all ages, the activities that I was talking about. And we are developing more. We have a lot of things on our YouTube page. Middle schoolers are fine with this. You just don't use the same language all the time. Like you'll see some of this stuff is they're almost done in scripts because it's all questions. So it's say, what do you think heaven is? And then you go around the circle. You can do that with middle schoolers. You can do that with high schoolers. And we also have
Uh,
we have a lot of groups that are um, multi-age groups because you've got churches where they have one Sunday school class and it's everybody together. So you can do multi-age and grandparents and kids and grandkids are fantastic too. So,
I guess I'm sorry. What I meant was rather than older kids, I should have said young adults.
oh, well, again, I do some Zooms for young adults because it's almost easier for them to come and do a Zoom. But and we are working on trying to develop an app right now called the Peace Influencer Program, which is for kids can be involved in it, but it would be ultimately for young adults because right now we have a world of these influencers who are influencing us to do terrible things, buy, click, join the wrong kinds of groups, the wrong kinds of thinking. So that has a lot of that's a gamified app that people can go into and do work on. The respect challenge is definitely for young adults, and they can win prizes and money if they do the respect challenge. So if you want to talk about some of those things, you have a specific group of young adults that you work with?
Oh, no, no, I was talking about my own kids.
Oh yeah. Well, we can get them on here and show them and see what they want to, if they're interested. How old are they?
20 and almost 24.
Would they be interested?
I I think so. The question would be more how much time would they have to do it?
Yeah,
They both are leading very, very busy lives.
right,
So
right.
I'll
So there's also a booklet that we're developing for teens and college kids. It's called PIES, and it's like this little personal check-in that they do. And PIES stands for physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual. And when you get together as a group, you share. Like if we went around the group right now, and I would say, Gulner, how are you doing? And you'd be like, physically, I haven't been sleeping. My foot hurts or whatever. And then you go intellectually, I'm not really reading or curious about anything right now. Emotionally, I'm happy I got a promotion. You go through and you do like a little check-in for yourself. This is therapeutic stuff. It's what you do in therapy. It's what you do in AA. It's the kinds of things that make us self-aware and make those connections in our head of, oh, these are the things that are going to help me be stronger this week. Now I know, I'm not sleeping. Well, of course I'm crabby, and that's why I snapped at, my friend or something. So there are things like that that are either in some of the resources already or coming. Um, but I will let you know. Stay on our mailing list and everything too, because we'll have some Zooms and maybe we could just introduce them to some of the resources for young adults. We could do a Zoom on that, and then they can decide how deep they want to dig.
Edwina, maybe you can develop a program where you get young adults together and you train them on how they can be peace influencers in their
We're doing
communities.
that. We're
Yeah.
doing that again. It's not easy to draw the young adults in. They're busy. So this is something, it's happening. We're doing trainings in Africa right now. We haven't done any here. There's a group we're working with in Africa. But yes, of course, that is exactly what we want. And I can also tell you, if you can get the young adults to work with kids, kids love teenagers, 20 somethings, college. They love them, even high schoolers. That's who they really want, to hang out with and do activities with. So, and there are things, there's peace camps, interfaith peace camps. There's a lot of different things that are out there. So, yes, we have a lot of ideas on our plate and a lot of things in the hopper. And I want to thank you all so much for joining us today. And is there anything else I can share with you? Did I?
Edwina, will a recording be available of this session
Yeah.
today?
You know what we'll do? We'll put it on YouTube and we'll send you all a link.
Because, yeah, I wanted my daughter to attend, but she had to attend the yoga class, so she could not.
That's okay. That's
She,
okay.
she would benefit from this. She has 4 young
Wonderful.
kids, so
Yeah. See, that's the thing is, and you could help her with that too.
yes,
That's the
I'm going
thing
to
is,
be.
you know, moms and dads are busy. Grandparents, they have the time. They could do a play date with the grandkids, but you don't want to shove anything down their throat.
No, no,
Want to
no.
just, you know, sort of very gently lure them into conversation and let them open up, and then they start to blossom. Okay, well, I am going to wrap up and say thank you. Thank you for the extra time.
Thank you.
I hope this was beneficial.
Thank you.
Yeah, please let us know. Go dig in our website. You'll find all kinds of good things. And Becca, if you want to do another one, maybe more specifically just with Zoroastrians on some specific topics, like rituals, something like that, you know, or other specific issues, I'm happy to do that as well.
Thanks a lot, Edwina. We'll be
You're,
in touch.
Thank you.
you're
Where,
very
where are you
welcome.
located, Edwina?
I'm in Chicago, but the program is all online.
Okay.
Our partners in India, one of our partners is in India. But I'm kind of the spokesperson.
Very
I'm the
good.
mother
Thank you.
founder.
Thank you so
That's
much. You're doing a great job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I
And
appreciate
I
you.
really like the story of the son you adopted.
Oh, thank
And
you. He's
that
doing
must
well. He's
that
doing well.
that
But
that's
life's been
that's a very
very hard
noble
for him.
noble thing to do.
It's not easy, but
Yeah.
life's been very hard, and he's not alone. There's a lot of kids out there. And now when I look at what's happening, think of all the children out there that are just lost and being hurt. We need to scoop them up and love them and give them some confidence and make sure they know they're here for something important.
Mhm.
So thank
Absolutely.
you all.
Thank you.
Have a lovely weekend. Hope to
Thank
see
you.
you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.